I'm gonna do this quick. Apparently, my chapter 17 video had no sound. And I was like, oh, what? Maybe it's just YouTube messing it up. Then I went back to the original file and listened. There's no sound on it, which is infuriating because I remember, after recording, listening to the sound. But, you know, I gotta re-record this, so then I'll have to rewrite what number it's on without a pencil, because I don't know what the goddamn pencil is. Today is turning out to be a better day than I thought. No. Infuriating. Getting a spring break starts like this. It's great. I love it. Yes. I went and checked most of my other videos. They seem to be fine. Let me make this quick because I got dinner in a little bit. It's cooking right now. It's about to finish. And, you know, I don't want to be in here recording. So we're redoing Season 2, Chapter 17. So it's going to be some video jumping around because this one's going to actually be posted after Part 21, which was already posted a few days ago. I should probably get more recordings done tonight. Yeah. Just, 17 is going to be deleted. And I'm going to post a new 17 that's going to come after. My audio apparently messed up, and I'm going to have to end up checking this one too. And if it turns out to be sucky, then I'm going to record later with all the rest of the videos. So, let's begin. This is His Reasons. It's a Todoroki X-Rated fanfic by AshlyH713, Season 2, Chapter 17, a redo. Yeah. Amari walked into the classroom a couple days later only to find a couple students laughing around Mina's desks. They looked to be reading something, although she really didn't have any interest. As she approached her desk, Mina called out to her, now noticing her presence. "Hey Amari, come check this out, quick." Yeah, I had an extra word. The other students started calling her as well until the girl had no choice but to comply, walking up to the desk slowly. "What's up?" Lifting the book in the air, Mina waved it around like crazy. "Some news outlets covered our class during the sports festival. Look, there's a page dedicated to everyone. It's so cool." Narrowing her eyes with confusion, Amari replied, "Really? What does it say about me?" Kirishima smirked at that, pointing to the page. "It says you were super strong and amazing. You were the third best of the entire class. You know, man, I'm still jealous." Amari's face couldn't help but flush at that, patting the boy's spiky head once. "Come on, Kira, you don't give yourself enough credit. I'm not that great. I just got lucky, that's all." The boy smiled softly at their words when Denki ripped the book out of Mina's hands and smirked. "Oh yeah, and there's a whole section of your page dedicated to how you confessed to Todoroki in the middle of his match. Let's not forget about that." Amari's face fell then, already turning away from the book. She didn't need to hear any more about this. She had already gone through enough torture the past couple of days. Just great. Mina saw her walking away, though, and called out loudly, "Wait, where are you going, Amari? You didn't even see your page yet." But the girl only put a hand out, already placing her bag on her desk. "That's okay, Mina. I'd rather not have to read about one of the biggest public embarrassments I've made in my entire life." Frowning at her response, Mina got another idea, letting her voice lower slightly in a sly manner. "Are you sure? You know, there's also an entire section on Todoroki in here, also, with pictures." This caused Amari to pause, letting her hand slowly drop from her bag. She hated to admit it, but she was slightly intrigued now. "What are you trying to say?" Mina only shrugged in response, though, waving the book in air, taunting her. "Nothing really. I just didn't know if you wanted to read about your boyfriend or not. There is some real juicy stuff in here." Amari narrowed her eyes, not wanting to give the girl what she wants. Did she really think she was so lovesick that she would give in just like that? Because if so, she was absolutely right. Moving back up to the desk, Amari ripped the page from Mina's hand, trying not to make eye contact. She really was so shameless. "I hate you." Although the girl only shrugged while smiling, obviously not taking it personal. "No, you don't." Amari groaned at that, focusing her eyes on the page in front of her. Mina was right. There was an entire page dedicated to Todoroki, with a picture of him using his left side on half the page, while the other was filled with facts and information about the boy. She knew she probably should have just asked him about these things, but Todoroki was always such a closed book most of the time. She hardly knew anything about him other than his hatred for his father. Scanning her eyes on the page, Amari stopped when she noticed something important. "Wait, is all this information accurate?" Everyone nodded their heads, and she suddenly felt her stomach drop to the deepest pit imaginable. It said his birthday had already passed a couple weeks ago. Why didn't she know that? Thinking back to her own birthday, Todoroki really pulled out all the stops. He listened to her drunk ramblings, treated her to dinner, and even showed her his favorite spot. Never mind her giving her the gold bracelet that she hadn't taken off since then. He had done so much for her, and what had she done in return? Nothing. That was terrible. Amari crumpled the page in her hand, Mina noticing her change in attitude. Hey, what's wrong? Shaking her head, she replied, I did something terrible. Oh no, I'm the worst person ever. How could I not know something like this? Mina eyed this with confusion, while Kirishima looked over her shoulder and questioned, Why do you say that? Throwing the book down on the desk, Amari shook her head once. His birthday. I never said anything to him or did anything special, even though he's done so much for me. I never even knew when it was. The class looked between each other before Denki spoke up. Come on, don't get all beat up about it. How were you supposed to know? Todoroki isn't the most sociable person in the world after all. He did have a point, but that didn't make her feel any better. Still, I should have done something. Even if he didn't tell me, I should have known. Looking down at her bracelet, Amari knew she had to do something to fix this. Her time at the school was already very limited, and Todoroki had selfishly done so much for her over the last couple months. She needed to thank him somehow for always being there for her before it was too late. She needed to tell him she loved him. That's when she got an idea on how to do that. No, I have to fix this, no matter what. Just then, her eyes locked with the rest of the class, determination in her gaze. Yes, she could do this. Everyone, I need your help, if that's okay. One by one, everyone's faces turned into sly, sneaky smiles, ready to take on this task. Kirishima, Mina, and Denki were especially excited. Say no more. Amari smiled back when a voice caused her to jump 10 feet into the air all at once. Good morning, Amari. Turning back to him, she screamed at a sudden realization. I mean, Todoroki, good morning. What are you doing here? He noticed her nervous demeanor right away, worried that something might have been wrong. This is our classroom. Are you okay? You seem a little jumpy. Widening her eyes slightly, Amari playfully slapped him on the back, laughing back in an unconvincing way. Jumpy? What? No. Who's jumpy? I'm not at all jumpy. This is how I am, all the time, 24/7. Yep, that's right. Just plain old me. Todoroki raised a confused eye at this when Mina reached forward and grabbed her arms around the girl's shoulders, pulling her towards her. Don't worry about it, Todoroki. We were only teasing her about you two. She gets flustered really easily, huh? Luckily, he seemed to buy the lie really easily, just sighing in response. That sounded like something they would do. Please don't do that. You're making her uncomfortable. Mina just smirked then, putting her hands up in defense and letting the poor girl go. You're right. I'm sorry, Amari. It was all in good fun, I swear. Amari looked back at the girl before giving a knowing look and going along with her plan. They were covering for her. Yeah, it's okay. No worries. Suddenly the bell began to ring, and everyone moved towards their seats. Amari now thinking about the months ahead and humming happily as Mina winked at the girl secretly. Maybe she could pull this off. During class, as I would mention, the final exams were around the corner, and with it was the chance to attend an exclusive training camp over break. Long story short, it was something everyone was both very excited and worried about. Because of that, Bakugo already assumed he would pass and began packing almost immediately. In his mind, he had already won, even before the exam started. That's just how Bakugo was. Once his mother found out about the exam, she forced him to take Amari to the nearby mall so that she could start preparing also, although he wasn't too sure that she was going to pass. He was kind of hoping she wouldn't, so that he wouldn't have to worry about her. A small break would be nice. Amari herself, though, was just excited about the possibility ahead. She didn't care what the training camp involved, just reeling about the idea of being able to bond with her brother. Maybe this trip could draw them closer together. She kind of hoped so. Stepping through the doors to the mall, she hummed happily with a slight skip to her step, already causing Bakugo to groan. Would you stop? Why are you so damn happy anyways? I can't believe Mom made me bring you here. God damn it. Who even knows if you're going to pass the exam? Amari frowned slightly, bringing a stop to her skip as she shrugged. Who knows? But I'm going to give it everything I've got so I can join you over break. Imagine the two of us together, bonding, telling scary stories, training together. Doesn't that sound fun? Her voice rose on each word, gaining more excitement from each one, although Bakugo didn't feel the same. This just sounded like he would have to babysit her from doing something stupid. Hell no. Who says I would do any of that crap? Shaking her head slightly, Amari's eyes fell. Yeah, sorry. I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. Of course, you wouldn't want to do any of that. Still, that would be fun. Bakugo took in the change of attitude and immediately felt bad for shouting at her. Why did she look so depressed now? Groaning once again, Katsuki aggressively pressed down on her head before turning away. How about you focus on passing first, and then we can talk about all that nonsense? Amari blinked in surprise at that, lightly touching the area where his hand once was. Wait, does that mean you're okay with it? Shaking his head, Katsuki scoffed. Don't get ahead of yourself, brat. You have to actually pass the exam first. Although Amari was overjoyed by his words, he wasn't completely shutting her down. This was so new, she didn't know how to feel about it. Smiling happily, she then raced in front of him before flexing her invisible muscles in determination. Challenge accepted, Katsuki. I'll pass, and then we can be the Bakugo Dream Team together. Her title didn't make him amused in the slightest, though, shaking his head in disappointment. Oh god, never say that again. That's the stupidest name I've ever heard in my entire life. Nodding her head in acceptance, Amari thought about the name, knowing that Katsuki didn't approve of it. I'll work on it before the break. She laughed slightly when a voice behind her made her entire body freeze all at once. Hold on, is that Bakugo? Unable to turn to the voice, Amari felt her stomach grow extremely uncomfortable and her heart rate pick up at a rapid pace. Suddenly, she was back to being a child, hiding behind the entrance of her house to get a peek at his friends. She wanted to run, but her body wouldn't listen. Bakugo blinked in surprise at the strangers, almost recognizing them immediately. It was a couple of his friends from his childhood, the same exact friends he'd lied to about Amari all those years back. Was it the universe playing some sort of sick joke on him? What are you two extras doing here? The boys just turned their heads in amusement, racing forward and slapping the poor boy in the back. Oh, don't be like that. What, now you're all famous and you don't remember your old friends? I heard about you at the sports festival, dude. You were insane. Because they were complimenting them, Bakugo couldn't help but smirk. Of course, I am the best of the best after all. Did you two extras forget that? They laughed at this, clearly enjoying his words. Same old Bakugo, we missed you, dude. You should come hang out more. The three started to talk about something unimportant, still not recognizing Amari's presence, so she thought it would be best to leave them alone. Bakugo probably didn't want them to know about her anyways. That's how it was when they were kids, after all. Turning her foot away, though, one of his friends caught her eye and pointed. Whoa, and who is this? You two look almost alike. It's crazy. If you were only a bit taller, then you two could be like twins. Too bad Bakugo's an only child, though. The boy's words drove an invisible sword into her chest. Of course she wasn't to his standards. She wondered what kind of disappointed expression he would make if he knew they were actually related. Not wanting to say too much, Amari just smiled, putting a hand out in response, ignoring the light shake that had appeared from her nerves. She needed to get out of here, and fast. Don't worry about it, I'm no one. You three catch up. I'm gonna go check out a couple shops. She started to turn away when Bakugo raised an eye in confusion, calling back. Hold on, brat. Where the hell do you think you're going? Mom told me not to leave you alone. Although Amari only shook her head, trying to get out of the situation even faster. He needed to stop using such dangerous words or else his friends would know that they were related. And she knew he didn't want that. It's fine. You guys haven't seen each other in a while. I don't want to get in the way. Mari stepped away then when a hand wrapped around the center strap of her backpack, pulling her backwards in surprise. He silently wondered why she was acting all jumpy now. It was strange. What are you doing? Let me go, Katsuki. His friends eyed his interaction strangely, now noticing the close atmosphere. Is she a classmate of yours or something? Shaking her head, she was about to deny his words again when Katsuki did something unexpected, causing her eyes to widen all at once. She's not just a classmate, she's my sister. His words seemed to surprise the boys as well, recalling what Bakugo used to tell them all the time when they were kids. Your sister? But you said you were an only child. Because of that phrase, Bakugo's mind began to fill with shame, remembering how he lied to them in order to ease his own guilt. He didn't want Amari to know about that. I lied. His friend's mind then began to race all at once, not fully understanding the situation. Hold on, so you're saying that she's your sister? Come on, Bakugo, that's not a very funny joke. Amari's eyes fell at the sting of his words, already trying to explain herself. Yeah, I know, it seems weird. Although Bakugo shut her down real quick, taking over her in an angry shout. You got a problem with it or something? Because if so, then you can deal with me. It's not a damn joke. A small silence appeared then as Bakugo then pushed her forward in a single motion. What are you waiting for? Usually I can't get you to shut up. Introduce yourself already, so they know I'm not lying. Suddenly everyone's eyes were on her as Amari felt forced to speak, bowing to hide her nervous demeanor. Yes, hello, my name is Bakugo Amari. What he says is true, I guess. I've been in America for most of my life, so that's why you probably didn't know about me. It's nice to meet you. His friends raised a brow at that, Amari feeling self-conscious as they scanned her up and down slowly. Whoa, really? Then Bakugo, why did you hide her all this time? You always said you never had a sister when we were kids. Bakugo's eyes grew sullen, as Amari only smiled sadly, bringing her hand up slightly. Back then I was mainly in the hospital, so for Katsuki to say that he was an only child wasn't completely off, and it was probably really strange to explain my situation and everything, so he probably thought it was an easier way of going about things. Her explanation made a large hole in his stomach, knowing fully well that his intentions were not as pure as she made them sound. He avoided her existence on purpose so that his friends would never know the damage and suffering he caused to her. Bakugo wasn't naive back then. He was a coward. Although his friends seemed to buy her foolish explanation, nodding their heads in acceptance. Oh, I see. But Bakugo, you didn't have to hide her from us. We could have had another person to play with then. Mari smiled nervously, Katsuki noticing the slight sadness in her eyes at his words. That would have been nice. It's all right. I wasn't really allowed to do those kinds of things anyways. I probably would have just held you down. I'm happy to finally meet you two, though. Placing an elbow on his friend's shoulder, a new question suddenly popped into their memory. Wait, you said you were in America, right? Then what brought you back to Japan? She replied back smoothly, ignoring the fact that her stomach was doing flips internally. Oh, well, I got accepted at UA, so I've been working for my hero's license with Katsuki. The boys' mouths dropped at that, scanning her up and down again to see if they misheard. You're training to be a hero, too? Their words sounded accusing and skeptic, which was the norm for her and Amari. It was just like back in Endeavor's agency. They didn't believe her. It was obvious. Bakugo seemed to notice the tone as well, not liking that they were underestimating her when it was clear that she could destroy both of them at the drop of a hat if she wanted to. Frowning slightly, Katsuki grabbed onto his sister's shoulder, pushing her back a couple steps. This brat may not look like much, but she's pretty stubborn. Of course, she's not as great as me, but you shouldn't underestimate her, 'cause she'll easily kick your ass. Mari's eyes widened at his words, not fully registering them in her mind. Was he defending her? She didn't know, but his actions made it seem that way. Glaring at his friends, they put their hands up in defense, knowing they had misstepped and angered the boy. And that was never fun. Fully noted. Don't worry. If she's really a Bakugo, then I'm sure she's a force to be reckoned with. They laughed nervously, taking a couple more steps before they parted ways, Bakugo shoving his hands in his pockets as the two left. Well, that was something he didn't want to face today, seeing his old friends had brought up all that shame that was still buried deep inside himself. Amari seemed uncomfortable about it also. He was just happy it was finally over. Shaking his head, he stopped when Amari's voice rang through his mind. Katsuki? He turned to her then, noticing her face twist into one of uncertainty and confession, like she couldn't process something. Why did you do that? Bakugo seemed confused by her words, replying, What are you talking about, stupid? Watching her eyes grow distant, Amari sighed, placing one of her shaking hands to hold her own arm. You should have just let me walk away. I was trying to make things easier. Her words brought 1,000 warning bells to his mind, taking a step closer in confusion. Something was off about her. What kind of bullshit are you spewing now? Mama already told me they should kill me if I left you alone. A small silence appeared then as Bakugo watched her hands around her arms tighten slightly, as if she was afraid to speak back. But you introduced me as your sister. Her vague phrasing was only making him more and more annoyed, though. Why did that seem like such a big problem to her? Did she not want him to do that? Yeah, what about it? Casting her eyes away, Amari replied softly, as if she was almost afraid to hear the answer. You weren't ashamed of me? Bakugo processed her words slowly before growing even more nervous yet confused. What the hell was that supposed to mean? What? Blinking twice, Amari realized that she may have misstepped, already trying to backtrack amorously. Never mind, sorry, it's nothing. Let's go get started on that list now. She turned away only for her brother to grab her arm again, stopping her from leaving. He couldn't just leave the conversation like that. Something felt incredibly wrong to him. Hold on, brat. Don't just walk away from me. What the hell does that even mean? Her eyes locked on his for a moment before casting them away again, almost like she was ashamed or something. It's nothing. Although Bakugo didn't believe her in the slightest, shouting back, Bullshit, it's nothing. Why the hell would you even say that? Of course I'm not ashamed. Why would I even be ashamed? What would I even be ashamed about? Her face looked like it was battling some sort of internal war, debating on whether she should tell him or not, although she couldn't help but feel a small sliver of hope from his statement. Taking a deep breath of courage, Amari decided to explain her confusion to him. I just thought you didn't want anyone to know about me. That's why I was surprised when you suddenly did that. Didn't you want to stay an only child to them? Katsuki's face suddenly fell, processing her words. Did she think he was ashamed of her all this time? Well, in honesty, he was. But it was for a different reason. Amari. But she only shook her head, looking away from him. You don't have to explain yourself. I always knew that's what you wanted. Back then, I wasn't really that impressive to show off. I don't blame you for that. I'm just wondering what made you tell them now. Katsuki stared at his sister for a moment, still trying to process her words. He hated that she was saying all this so calmly, like this was just a normal part of her everyday life, when in actuality it was cruel. How long had she known that he was trying to erase her existence? Taking his hands out of his pockets, Bakugo didn't have an answer for her, at least not one that he could say out loud. He couldn't tell her about the reason he did all that in the first place. Her brother was too ashamed for that. Amari noticed the silence, now taking a soft step forward. He couldn't help but notice a small sliver of hope in her eyes then. Have I changed since then? His eyes couldn't help but lock with hers, now feeling the need to reply. Of course you have. You are like a completely different person than from before. Soaking in his response, Amari couldn't help but blink in surprise. Maybe that was why he finally introduced her to his friends. All this time was her main goal to prove to Katsuki that she could be a sister he would be proud of. Someone that he could introduce to his friends and openly say that they were related. It seemed almost too good to be true. Katsuki had just done what she always wanted. Did that mean what she thought it meant? Had she finally done it? Was she finally worthy enough in his eyes? Already feeling a few tears prick at the corner of her eyes, Amari spoke back, uncertain and small. She needed to know if that was the case. Wait, I've really changed? Am I stronger now? Bakugo didn't know how to take in her words, not understanding the hidden meaning in them. I already said yes, brat. Is your brain broken or something? Feeling her heart hammering on her chest, Amari felt her head grow lightheaded, unable to process what he was saying. She had finally done it. All of that intense training and pushing had worked. He wasn't ashamed anymore. Bringing a hand to her mouth, Amari wiped a lingering tear from her eyes, now staring at him with absolute insanity. Does this mean I can be your sister now? I can tell people? Bakugo found her words concerning, like it was some kind of joke, although her face showed no sign of that. She honestly looked desperate for his response. It brought 1,000 warning bells in his head. Narrowing his eyes in confusion, Katsuki dropped his voice lower, now overly concerned for the girl. Why are you saying that like you weren't before? You've always been my idiot sister. Or did you forget that? Your brain really must be broken. Amari shook her head while wiping another tear, her voice replying raspy and small. You're not ashamed. Shaking his head, Bakugo groaned back. You aren't listening to me, brat. How could I be ashamed when I have one of the most badass sisters out there? Bulldoze! Honestly, it's no surprise, though, because you are Bakugo. Dude, no. Dad's working on the front door. You can't go out. Therefore, the strongest of them all, but still not as strong as me, so don't even try. It took a moment to soak in all his words before Amari couldn't stop her tears, allowing them to pool down her face all at once. All throughout her entire life, she had wanted to hear those words, to be able to proudly call herself a Bakugo, and now she had finally done it. She honestly didn't care anymore if those pills killed her. She had already completed her goal. Smiling through her tears, she then raced forward, wrapping her arms around her brother aggressively before squeezing the life out of him all at once. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Katsuki. He jumped back at the action, obviously not knowing how much this meant to the poor girl. She kind of looked like she had lost her sanity. Hey, get off me, you damn brat. What the hell are you doing? But Amari was too happy to care, finally releasing him before running up to a random couple in the mall and shouting, Hello, I'm Bakugo Amari, Katsuki's sister. Then she ran away from them, finding another family and shouting the exact same thing. Hello, I'm Bakugo Amari, Katsuki's sister. Bakugo watched her display with embarrassment, already calling out to her. Maybe she did actually go insane. Have you finally lost it? What are you even doing? Once again, she didn't hear. Instead, jumping off the edge of the railing and shouting down to the entire first floor, she couldn't help it. She was too happy to contain herself. Hello, I'm Bakugo Amari, and I'm Katsuki's sister. Her brother's eyes widened at this, pulling her down from the railing and ignoring the stares in the back of his head. And then he covered her mouth roughly, causing her to stop. What are you doing? Stop acting like an idiot and calm down. Everyone's staring. Nodding her head in acceptance, Bakugo let go only for her to giggle like a little schoolgirl, obviously not able to contain her happiness. Sorry, I'm just so happy. This is the best day of my life. Thank you, Katsuki. Bakugo just shook his head in disappointment when another voice caused them to stop. Hey, Bakugo and Amari, what are you guys doing here? Turning to the present, she smiled when she recognized Mina, Uraka, and Denki, and a couple other students behind her. Hey everyone, what a surprise! Katsuki and I were just buying stuff for the training camp. Can never be too early. It seemed that's what everyone else was doing as well, shortly making the executive decision to join together as one big group, even though Bakugo wasn't really all that interested in the idea. Suddenly, Amari's stomach growled as she realized she didn't have lunch yet, already eyeing the food court a couple steps away. I'll be right back. I'm going to get one of those big pretzels before we start. They all nodded their heads except for Bakugo, who grabbed her arm, stopping her movements all at once. Hey, did you forget? Mom said she'd kill me if I left you alone. Her mom was still shaken up about Hosa, which was understandable, but this was only a mall, and they were there, and the things she hated most of all were being babied. Waving her hand away, Amari smirked. I'll be fine. The only thing I have to watch out for here is diabetes. It will only be a minute. She took another step away before ignoring Patsuki's protest and heading down the stairs towards the food court. Little did she know what she was about to face once she got there. Okay, finished it. Gonna edit it, post it, make sure the sound works. Check her out. She's a good writer. This one I think is way shorter than a lot of my videos, because I was speed reading. I got stuff I need to do. You will hear me in the next video, which I'll be recording later today. I don't think it'll be posting today, though, since this one will be posted today, so yeah, it'll be posted tomorrow. Yeah, see, you will hear me in the next video. Bye-bye!